music students, welcome back to music class. I am your teacher, Miss Petrucci, and today we are going to start our trip around the world. So our imaginary trip around the world to learn about all kinds of different music from all around the world. But first, we're going to review the different musical instrument groups. So we are prepared to talk about the different instruments that they use across the world and what instrument family they would go in. So I'm going to be looking at this packet, which you have a digital copy on Google Classroom that you guys are going to be working on. This packet is your Google Classroom, Google Slides packet that you're going to come back to. It looks like this on the cover, Music Around the World Unit. And that's what you're going to keep coming back to every week for a while we do our trip around the world. So you can look at this page on your own after this video to review, but we have our instrument family starting with the string instrument family. And it has a picture of a guitar here, but the string instrument family is everything that you play with strings. So violins, viola, bass, ukuleles, guitars. So string instruments produce sound when you pluck their strings, or it doesn't say this on here, but also using a bow, which is how you play violins and violas and basses and cellos. So the vibration from the plucking of the string or the bowing of the string is transmitted to the body of the instrument. So these string instruments have a hollow body. And I will show you a picture of maybe some other string instruments in the string instrument family. So then we have the woodwind family. So the woodwind instruments are blown into in order to produce sounds. So this is similar to the brass family, but the woodwind family, when you think of woodwinds, it has that word wood in it, and this means either the instruments used to originally be made out of wood or are still made out of wood. So thinking about clarinets and bassoons and oboes, those are still made out of wood in the orchestra, and oftentimes a flute is metal. But when we want to think about woodwinds, how we know it's a woodwind, it's an instrument that can be made out of wood. So sometimes flutes are made out of wood still. So the length of the air column affects the pitch of the sound of the note produced. The longer the air column, the lower the pitch is produced, and the shorter the air column, the higher the pitch is. So that means if you had a really long woodwind, it would have a lower sound, and if you had a shorter woodwind instrument, the sound would be higher. Now the brass family is also an instrument you blow into, but it's not a woodwind because none of these can be made out of wood. So when you think about if an instrument is a woodwind or a brass, and they're both something you blow into, brass is going to be something that probably has one of these bell-looking shapes on the end. So think of brass as something with a bell shape on the end. And that you can't really make these out of wood. So they're always going to be coiled metal with that horn bell on the end. So similar to woodwinds, brass instruments you blow into in order to produce sound. They create a much different sound than that of the woodwind, more of a buzzing sound that you'd hear in jazz or blues music. These instruments are made of brass or other types of metal material. Now the percussion instrument family, these instruments produce sound when someone beats or strikes the surface or scrapes the surface. They can be shaken, and some instruments are beaten with hands or sticks. So oftentimes when we think of percussion, we think of drums or cymbals like this, but that can also be maracas or xylophones as well. Now, we are going to start our journey around the world, and drum roll, please. Our first destination is Japan. Japan is a small country in the continent of Asia. So if we fly across the Pacific Ocean, we will get to our first destination of Japan. Here's our map of Japan, and as you can see, it's like an island off of the coast of Korea and China in the Pacific Ocean. So, Music of Japan, and you can find this in your Music Around the World unit assignment. So, Music of Japan. There are two forms of traditional Japanese music. There are Shomyo, which is Buddhist chanting, and Gagaku, which is performance music. And this is my favorite thing that I learned about Japanese music that you're going to learn too. The word for music in Japanese is angaku, which translates to sound joy. And how appropriate is that for me when music brings me so much joy? So angaku is the Japanese word for music, and it means sound joy. The dadaiko is a large festival drum that is used for outdoor gagaku performances. A gagaku orchestra performance consists of wind, string, and percussion instruments. In the orchestra, they place the two large drums on both sides of the stage. Now, after this video, I'm going to link a video to a gagaku performance and see if you can see those dadaiko drums. And there's a small drawing picture here, but I will also show you guys actual pictures as well. The next percussion instrument is the kakko. It's a double-headed drum that was developed in Japan. The drum sits sideways on a stand, so it can be played by bachi sticks on both drum heads. The kakko is another instrument used in gagaku performances. And see if you can find the kakko drum in the video that I will link for you to watch after this lesson. So I imagine the kakko drum will be kind of like this. I don't have any real traditional Japanese instruments in my classroom, but it looks from this picture on our packet here, it looks kind of like this drum. It has the strings on it and the two drum heads. There's a drum head on this side and a drum head on that side. So I imagine it looks kind of like this drum. So maybe in the future, we could use this kind of as a sort of pretend kakko drum in the classroom. The next drum type of instrument I want to tell you about in Japanese music is the chindon taiko. The chindon taiko is an instrument used in street performances and marching bands in Japan. Chin is the sound of the gong, and don is the sound of the drum. So it looks like there's kind of two parts of this chindon taiko right there. So you can see that on your Google Classroom packet as well. Okay, so after you've watched this video and then watch the gagaku performance, you guys are going to complete a couple of things on the Music from Around the World unit assignment. So you're going to go to this assignment and find that Music of Japan and review as needed. And then you're going to fill out this portion in the Google slide. Music of Japan, what I learned. So you're going to write down what your favorite Japanese instrument was and why. And do a little drawing here. One fun fact you learned about the music in Japan. I think I would put for my fun fact here is the Japanese word for music means sound fun, because I think that's a very fun fact. And a question I have about about the music of Japan would be, I think if I were to ask a question on my assignment, and I'm not going to do this for you guys every time, but I just want to help you along for this first one so you guys kind of understand what to do. So a question maybe that you might have, which I had, was that it mentions that there are wind and string instruments, but we only went over these percussion instruments. So maybe a good question would be, what would be the wind or string instruments that are used, and what are they called? Might be a question I would have. Then, for now, it's going to get challenging. Music of Japan, explore the music of Japan. I have included some links for you guys to explore. So for the rest of your music period time, you're going to research the history of Japanese music. You can choose either to write about an instrument, a song, or an artist. So I will link a couple of websites that you can look at to decide what you want to talk about. So what did you research? So maybe what you would research would be wind instruments, because we didn't learn about that in our reading. So wind instruments. And then you could draw what you found, like the I think it's a 5-holed flute that they have. So you could research that. And then the fun facts you learned, maybe you could put the name of that instrument that you found out about, what other instruments it plays with, or maybe a song that they usually play, or maybe describe what, like how many holes does that flute have? Or if you did a string instrument, how many strings does that flute or that instrument have? Or if you write about a song, you could say, what time of year is that song usually played? Is it a New Year song? Is it a springtime song? Is there a special holiday associated with that? What kind of instruments are played in that song? So those are some ideas for you guys to look up on those websites that I am linking for you. So decide what you want to learn a little bit more about, and then you can find the answers to that in the links that I have provided for you guys. So just a recap on the instructions from here on out after this video, go and listen and watch that video of Gagaku and see if you can find the Dadaiko drum and the Kako drums in that performance. And so you can see what a performance of Japanese music looks like. Then after that, find your Google Slides assignment that says Music Around the World unit. You're going to find, you're going to find the Music of Japan part. And if you need, you can review what we talked about in this lesson. You're going to go to this page, which says what I learned, and fill out this page. Then you're going to use the links that I have provided in the instructions for this assignment and look at different things about the music of Japan and research something you want to learn about, like maybe one of the string instruments or the wind instruments that we did not talk about, or maybe a song or a specific artist. So You can write down what you researched here using the links, draw a little picture, and then write 3 fun facts. All right, have fun, students. Bye.